Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the September 2023 meeting of the Cobb County Board of Elections. We'll call the meeting to order at 3:02 p.m. At the outset of this meeting, I would just like to take a moment for a moment of silence. Obviously, today is September the 11th. We all know where we were and what we were doing on that date back in 2001. Or I'm sorry, 2001, and thought it appropriate, as most people have done today, is to take a moment of silence for those that unfortunately lost their lives on that fateful day. Thank you for that, and thank you, Board Member Mosbacher, for bringing that to my attention and making certain that it was done. We will next move on to the approval of the agenda, and I do want to note 2 amendments to the agenda that we'll obviously seek approval of from the board, that being the candidate qualification hearing. As noted, following the approval of the meeting minutes, there is not a need to have that hearing, as the challenger advised us earlier today that he is withdrawing his challenge to the candidacy of, is it Chris DeJohns? Am I saying that correctly, sir? It is? Okay. And I do note that Mr. DeJohns is here. You could be heard if you choose to, but again, the challenger has withdrawn his challenge. Okay. So the agenda is amended by removing the candidate qualification hearing. Additionally, the old business will be moved, and that being the update on the elections director search will be moved to after the executive session, as there are matters relating to specific candidates that must be discussed. They're personnel matters, obviously, and they must be discussed in executive session. Therefore, the update to old business, which is, again, the elections director search update, will take place after executive session. So with these 2 proposed amendments, are there any further comments or suggestions with respect to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as verbally amended.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Bruning. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Fisher. It's been moved and properly seconded to approve the agenda as verbally amended. All those in favor? There is no opposition. The motion carries. Everyone is in favor. Thank you. Next up, we will have public comment. Given the number of speakers, we will limit public comment to 4 minutes. That's 4 minutes for public comment. We did have one individual that signed up to participate virtually. She has since advised me that she is not available, as she is stuck on a call. So we will come back to her at the conclusion of the public comment for those that are here in the BOC room. I believe up first is a Miss Donna Wong. Hello, Miss Wong. If you will state your full name and any organization that you represent.
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Donna Wong, and I'm not associated with any organization. I thank the board for listening and being open to input from the public. My topic is Cobb County Election Day staffing requirements. I have resided in Cobb County for 25 years and have been a consistent voter during that period. I'm a retired dean at Emory University, and more recently, I served for the Cobb Elections Office as a deputy registrar processing absentee ballots. I speak from the experience of having worked last November in the Cobb Elections Office. I had hands-on experience and insight on how busy, how detailed and demanding the electoral process is with high voter turnout. And high voter turnout is something we want. It's a positive quality of our democratic process. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to have been a small but integral part of the voting process. Many more people would be able and wanting to engage in public service as poll workers on Election Day, but for the current requirement of working 15 hours. One solution to increase public service is the removal of an obstacle articulated and published in the Cobb County Elections Office application for poll workers. Quoting that website application, it says, all poll workers must be at their assigned polling place at 6 a.m. on Election Day until approximately 9 p.m., end quote. That translates to a 15-hour workday, and a 15-hour work shift is an onerous obstacle to participation in the electoral process, which contributes to Election Day worker shortages. Hence, a change from a 15-hour workday requirement expands the potential pool of poll workers among your constituents. A broad demographic of working people, retirees, parents or not, affluent or poor, young or old. A related important concern is the increased probability of mistakes arising from the physical and mental fatigue of a 15-hour work shift. Fatigue correlates with inadvertent mistakes, and as you know, mistakes raise questions of the validity of a process and the integrity of the process. In consideration of the comments, I respectfully request that the required 15-hour shift on Election Day be modified to include the option of shorter shifts. To conclude and reiterate, replacing the 15-hour workday with the option of 2 or 3 shorter shifts addresses 3 concerns. First, the shorter shifts allow for greater potential participation of workers in the democratic process. Second, shorter shifts lessen potential shortages of workers. And third, shorter shifts reduce the potential mistakes by fatigued workers. Implementing this requested nonpartisan change is a positive all-around step for Election Day in Cobb County. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Wong. Next up, Carrie Greer or Kari Greer.
Good afternoon. My name is Kari Greer, and I'm a citizen of Cobb County. And today I'd like to speak with you today about election transparency. Little by little, transparency in our elections has been taken away from us. More and more of the process is being conducted by vendors and the Secretary of State. The majority of citizens no longer trust the process, and I'm asking you to start having conversations with us about how we can improve election transparency and thereby trust in our elections. 2 things that we could start doing right away that could help a lot in this process back to transparency. One would be for the county to manage and monitor our own voter rolls. True the Vote identified over 380,000 ineligible registrants in Georgia during the 2020 elections. Over 67,000 of those registrants had votes cast in the 2020 election. I don't know how many of those were from Cobb County, but I'd like to know, and I think you'd be interested in knowing that as well. Well, there is some software that is available that can make that work much easier for election staff. And I'll send you information about that software company, and you can see for yourself what their capabilities are. You could even ask them for a live demonstration. You know, we cannot leave this important task up to our Secretary of State. A U.S. District Court has told us he is not credible. The second thing is that you could let us hand count ballots at the precinct. I can't verify who I vote for because I can't read the QR code. So why not let us hand count at our precincts where we can transparently see the ballot selections. We can do this regardless of whether we vote on a BMD or whether we use a hand-marked ballot. You know, even if you still want to use the tabulators to count, we can still hand count the ballots at the precincts so that we can verify the accuracy of the count. In fact, that is what Dominion said is the recommended method to verify the count. We've already simulated hand counting methods across the state, and we have demonstrated accuracy, efficiency, and proper chain of custody. I'll send you a video of one of the simulations that I participated in, and we're happy to do a simulation here in Cobb County. Last thing I want to mention is your authority. The Secretary of State admitted in court that they have no legal election authority over the counties. So please exercise your authority. And I'm praying for each of you that you have wisdom and that you have courage to give us transparency back in our elections. And I thank you for your service.
Thank you very much, Ms. Greer. Christine Rosman.
Hello, Chairwoman and Board, so I don't say commissioners. My name's Christine Rosman, and I had a couple things that I wanted to ask is why don't we have the timer going here? Anyway, is the recent article in the MDJ about the missing ballots, unaccounted for ballots, and which is really concerning for Cobb County. I think if you compared it to any other business, like if you were a teller and you were missing some checks or missing some bills, or if you were a cashier and you were missing that, there would be accountability, and there would also be like they'd clean up the system. And anyway, I'm very concerned about it. This isn't the first time that it's happened. I mean, we had 1,000 absentee ballots that didn't get sent out, that the State Board of Elections has had to get involved, that the ACLU sued Cobb County. I would like to give a shout out to our interim. I'm sorry, Jerry, and I can't remember what your last name is, for having the courage and the integrity to bring this to light. And I think that it was very Jerry Miller to have done this. And you're not popular when you start bringing things like this up, but there's some very questionable things. Like I know friends that are in Mableton. They were blown away at how they got the wrong ballot. I mean, that was kind of a disaster. My concern is that this seems like it's not a top priority, not only for the Board of Elections, maybe some of you, I don't know, but for Cobb County and the Board of Commissioners and those who appointed all of you. I mean, this is, unless you're living under a rock, you might know that like our neighboring county, Fulton, that they're having all kinds of problems. Not they're having problems, they are indicting people that even that questioned an election. And here we are, like, oh, loosey-goosey about thousands of ballots at a time. So that's where my real concern is. I think it's great that there's that National Voter Registration Day. I don't know if having a dunk and having it so playful to get people to vote, how about being more concerned about being good stewards of the ballots to begin with and making sure that those are, because I want to make sure that my vote is counted, and I'm sure everybody else does too, more so than doing like a sales blitz and getting a whole bunch more people. to vote. Also, I'm just curious too, is that if all this came out or was done under Janine Eveler's watch, how do you hold people accountable? Will she be held accountable if during discovery or whatever that you find out that under her watch that some things weren't real kosher? We have to know that people are held accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rossman. Next up is Deb Cobb.
Hello, my name is Deb Cooley,
Cooley.
and I am a resident of Cobb County, and I am here today to speak in support of paper ballots in our elections. The other part to that is to point out the board's authority to order that, and I'll be speaking and quoting from the Georgia law on this. It's 2022 Georgia Code, Title 21, Elections, Chapter 2, Elections and Primaries Generally, Article 8A, Statewide Voting Equipment, 21-300. Provision of the new voting equipment by state, uniform system of all elections to be conducted with the use of scanning ballots marked by electronic ballot markers. Pilot programs authorized. County responsibilities, education, county and municipal contracts for equipment. Further, in the citation, it speaks of, excuse me, I'm sorry. Such electronic ballot markers shall produce paper ballots which are marked with the elector's choices in a format readable by the elector. And we know that that has been ruled unlawful, that we cannot read them. So in the law where it's speaking of using paper if the machines are impracticable, I would submit that that would be a reason that the machines are impracticable, that they are not readable by the human eye. And I would submit that the board take the authority to ask for the paper ballots and the paper hand counting at the precincts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cooey. Mr. Leroy Emkin.
Leroy Emkin, live in Cobb County for the last 24 years. I didn't come with a prepared presentation. I've just been thinking about the duties and responsibilities of the Board of Elections. There have been an enormous number of allegations regarding voter fraud, ballot rolls that contain names of people who have no right to vote in this county. The fact that you have the exclusive authority to manage the elections in this county as other members of boards of elections in all the other counties throughout the state of Georgia, not the Secretary of State. It is shocking to me, with all the information that exists out there, all the evidence that Garland Favorito and Voter GA have put together regarding voter fraud throughout this state and all the counties in it, that you as a Board of Elections haven't at least made a decision to investigate whether or not such voter fraud existed in this county in the 2020 election. It seems to me that that is your duty, your sworn duty, to assure that there is no voter fraud, that our elections are fair, that those who do not have the right to vote, their votes are not counted, that only those who can prove they are citizens of this country, citizens of of Cobb County are the ones who are permitted to vote in this county. Why have you not done that? Why have you not honored your oath of office to defend the Constitution of the state, the United States Constitution, in regards to election procedures and policies? Why have you not had a meeting and allowed individuals such as Garland Favorito to make a presentation here at the Board of Elections to present his evidence? Clearly, the courts haven't permitted it, claiming he does not have standing. You've got to be kidding. The Supreme Court of the state of Georgia says, yes, any citizen has standing to sue an elected official. Why have you not asked such individuals who claim to have evidence? We just have had two or three people who are public comment speakers talking about the voter rolls, which does not contain only the names of those who are qualified to vote in this county. Why have you not asked such individuals to come and make a presentation to you, first publicly and then privately, so that you would have the information you would need to meet your sworn duty to assure that the elections are fair? We expect that of you. We respect you as our board. We expect you to exercise that authority to assure fair elections, not just to listen to the fake news. And we all know what that's all about. The public in this county and the state and the country, but certainly in this county, are asking questions. Are all these allegations true? Have you got the information to be able to make a judgment that the elections were fair or not? And I don't mean by listening to our Secretary of State's office. I mean by looking at the actual evidence of those people. I've seen that evidence of voter GA and of Garland Favorito. It is massive. And if you were to actually see it and investigate it, I would expect you to make the same findings. Please exercise your authority. Please honor your sworn duty to assure fair elections.
Thank you, Mr. Emkin. Circling back, do we have anyone that has joined us for virtual comment? Ms. Scruggs was...
Not as of the last 2 minutes.
Okay. I did send her a text message, and she's not responded, so at this time we will continue with the balance of our agenda. All board members should have received a copy of our proposed meeting minutes for our August 21st meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes? And if so, does anyone have any proposed revisions or comments that need to be considered prior to their approval? Okay. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Bruning. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Fisher. It's been moved and properly seconded to approve our August 2023 meeting minutes. All those in favor? There is no opposition. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to the next item, noting the amendment to our agenda, we will next have election office reports and updates, starting with our divisional managers as well as our HR liaison. Ms. Pringle, Kara Pringle.
Good afternoon, Board. Thank you for giving me this opportunity and asking me to just do a brief highlight of of my division, the Elections Division in Cobb County. I would just like to say that along with my division, the Prep Center and registration, we take our jobs and responsibilities with a lot of pride. And in the office, we are striving to do the very best that we can for Cobb County. So anyway, so this is the elections team, and it starts with my administrative team. My assistant is Jude Coburn, and our 2 part-time assistants are Pearl Roberts and Jeanette Collins. And then briefly in a few minutes, I'll just give an overview of everything that we're doing. We also have our site survey team, which our supervisor is Denise Ivy, and our site surveyor is Frankie Bryant. We do have an open position that we are interviewing, getting ready to interview at the moment. We also have our poll worker outreach recruitment coordinator, Tammy Thorpe, and she also deals with our area supervisors. We have a total of 30. And then last but not least, our poll worker training department, which is led by Narissa Dias. She's our training supervisor. And we have a total of 28 facilitators that come in and help with the training. Okay, so I just wanted to go into a few things that we are doing in our office. As we all know, that we just ended qualifying, and qualifying was August the 21st through the 24th. We qualified at Ackworth, Austell, Kennesaw, Monday through Wednesday, and Powder Springs and Smyrna on Tuesday through Thursday. There were no major issues with qualifying. Everything went smooth. And if anyone wants to know the names of the candidates, it is on our website. I also want to mention, along with qualifying, our department is in charge of campaign finance with our candidates and elected officials. They submit all of their financial documents, any other thing that's related to their campaign, to our office. And we work with them diligently to make sure that they are in compliance with all of their reports. I wanted to just kind of go through our past voter education events. Hopefully, you heard about some of these things on our website or through other media outlets. On April 15th, we were at the Taste of Mableton. May 17th, Cobb Senior Expo. June 17th, the NAACP Juneteenth. July 30th, we were with Commissioner Richardson at our homebuyer seminar. August 4th and 5th, we participated with We Care Vet Fair. August the 26th, we were at the Cobb International Festival. And just here last Saturday, September 9th, we were at Ebenezer Baptist Church. They had an empowerment event there. We're very proud of being able to go out into the community and assist our residents if they have questions regarding registration, if they have questions regarding advanced voting, or even becoming poll workers. That's what we're out there for. So we take pride in that. I'm very proud of Tammy and all the work that she's done with that. Moving right along, I'm almost done.
You're
poll
fine.
workers. We are always recruiting and placing new poll workers at our facilities. We are also taking applications for advanced person voting and absentee by mail. There's more information about our poll workers in training, and it can be found on our website, or I can be contacted at the office. Training by law, all poll workers are required to be trained prior to each election. Training for the November 7th municipal general election will run from October 10th to October 28th. Our training classes that we're offering is for manager, clerk, and provisional classes. All classes are held at the Cobb County Elections and Registrations main office. And as you've done as before, and then I wanted to offer it to our new board members, if you would like to attend any of the classes, please reach out to Narissa Dias, our training supervisor, or you can reach me personally. Last but not least, I wanted to just touch base on our site survey department. The site survey oversees the selection of adequate polling places where we can conduct our elections. They ensure that the locations are ADA compliant, have adequate electricity for voting machines, and are large enough to contain voting equipment and supplies, among other tasks. We are currently in the process of filling one position for our site survey. The position was made public, and the applications are closed, and we're going to be starting interviews soon. Any questions?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to thank you, as well as the other managers and members of the team that are here from the office to present. I thought it would be beneficial for new board members, one, to get a better sense of the inner workings of the office and who's responsible for what. But I also believe you have one additional event coming up. You're speaking at, well, the elections office itself is speaking at Cobb 101, or participating in Cobb 101.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's on September 28th. 28th.
Okay, excellent. I don't know whether anyone else on the board has any questions for Ms. Pringle.
Go ahead. I just want to say that was fantastic. Thank you. I feel like we've kind of needed that sort of overview for a while, so I appreciate it.
Great.
And
Anything
if
you
you
need,
could
just
send
let me
out
know.
your presentation via email, I think that would be helpful too.
Perfect, yes.
Thanks.
Definitely.
Do you publish a list of the future events that you're going to be at?
We do. It's always on our Cobb elections
Has
website.
2024 been posted yet?
Not yet,
Okay.
but I'll get that to you when it comes available.
If there are no further comments, or for that matter, questions for Ms. Pringle, thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here today
Okay, thank you.
and for your presentation. Ms. Brooks?
I didn't bring a presentation. I should have.
It's fine.
My name is Carly Brooks. Most of you guys probably know me, but I'm the administrative supervisor for the department. I wear a lot of hats in the department, but I'm going to talk to you today about my main one, which is as the HR representative for elections. Ms. Pringle talked about our poll workers and recruiting for that. I'm going to talk to you about our authorized positions within our department and the recruiting for those, aside from the director's position, would fall under my purview. So, we are a small but mighty department. We have a total of 177 authorized positions. 30 of those are full-time positions, and 20 of those are what we consider permanent part-time positions. The remaining 127 are our seasonal part-time positions. The seasonals are workers that come in and help us around election time, generally about 6 weeks before the elections and 4 weeks after. With the schedule that we've had the last couple of years, it's pretty much just from one election to another, but this year we have had a little bit of a break. So they will start to come back into the office here soon, but we do utilize them a lot for a lot of the administrative work that we have in the department. So we'll have 8 seasonal employees starting with us on Monday. Most of those, next Monday, most of those will be under Kara's team. There are some of our new training facilitators that are coming in. So I'm going to tell you just our current vacancies that are projected as of September 18th. We have 5 full-time vacancies out of the 30 positions. The director position, which is underway. We have the site survey coordinator. We have a registrar, which is currently in the interviewing process. We have the assistant ABM supervisor, which we're pending a reclass for the job. We're working on with our HR team to try to get that job upgraded a little bit to be more appealing for some candidates and also to accurately reflect the job duties in that role. And then lastly, we have the administrative coordinator who sadly just left us for the Secretary of State's office. So she has a huge role to fill, and we're hoping to get that one filled as quickly as possible. The other part-time vacancies that we have for our permanent positions, we have 6. I'm not going to go into details about those, but 3 of them are in the interviewing process. 2 of them are pending posting, and then 1 of them we're holding for budget reasons to try to get possibly reclass another job for. Seasonals, we have 12 positions outstanding out of the 127. We don't anticipate filling those for this election year, but we will be bringing people in for the presidential year of 2024. But right now, we feel like we're pretty staffed for the municipal elections this fall. So that's basically all that I have. If you guys have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those.
No, I don't have any questions. I also thank you for being here. I know that this is not something that we've previously done, but I do, in the interest of, one, making certain that we're all aware of what's going on in the office. I know I've been, I wouldn't say hands-on, but very communicative with the team during this time frame that we have been without a director, and obviously in working closely with our interim director, but thought it important for the balance of the board as well as the public to know where we are with regard to vacancies, notwithstanding the fact that it's just where we are. So I don't know whether anyone else on the board has questions or comments for Ms. Brooks. Of course.
Thanks, this is very helpful. I think if we could maybe have some type of document or reporting structure for this regularly, not that you need to show up at every meeting to give us that, but if we could have that, you know, whether it's email once a month, sort of like, here's what's filled, here's what's open, here's what's getting ready to post, sort of looking at it like that. Sure. I think that'd be helpful for us to kind of know where things stand and where we're, you know, maybe light on staff, or where if there's help needed kind of thing, especially on the reclassing front, if there's anything that we can do to advocate on that side. I think that'd be helpful to know, but this is great information. And on that note of the people who are starting, can you just give us a little bit of like, what does the onboarding process look like?
So all of the positions that I talked to you about today would be going through our county new hire orientation. So they come in on the start of the biweekly, which would be next Monday. We do every 2 weeks. They meet with me for a couple hours. They go through a virtual orientation with all the other Cobb County new employees, where we go over policies, procedures, you know, that type of stuff. Then they meet with me. We go over department procedures, get their badge, try to get them all set up with all the IS stuff that they need access to. So these would be the formal orientation people that would go through like any of the other BOC employees.
Is there something you do specific to the elections orientation, or is that sort of by department?
So the county one, they would go the virtual, and then afterwards I just meet with them and we go over the essential elections policies, procedures. There's not a huge amount that differs with our department from the county. So it's just a few of the, you know, just general things.
Cool. Thank you.
I do have a question, Carly. I haven't noticed all these positions open under the employment tab on our election website. How long do they stay open?
The minimum for so we can post a job 2 different ways. We can post it internal for department or county employees only to apply, or we can open it to the public. If it's an internal posting, the minimum is 1 week. If it's an external posting, then it's a minimum of 2 weeks. And considering some of our specialty positions, sometimes it can be longer than that, but it would be 2 weeks at the minimum.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It would definitely be posted on the county's website. I don't know if there's a link to that on the elections website. I can check and see, but all of the county positions would be posted through the county employment page.
I think it would be beneficial, any job opening be on the elections, because that's kind of where it appears people are guided to. But can you tell me a little more about internal only and how that doesn't circumvent EEOC requirements?
Our main HR would probably be the best to talk to about that, but generally they're positions that are maybe at second level, that we already have candidates that we've kind of been grooming for positions at the first level that we've identified. So a lot of times we'll open it in-house to see if there's any interest before we're opening it external. So it'd be kind of like a promotional opportunity for an internal candidate.
Well, what we can do, Debbie, is be certain to have someone from the HR department to provide a clarification as to what that distinction is, what determines whether a position is posted internally versus externally. we'll take that as a point to follow up on.
Okay, that would be helpful. Coming from the corporate world, we wouldn't be able to do that. So thank you for your info.
So, and thank you. I will note to Ms. Mossbacher's point, I know we've talked about pulling together a standard form of a report that we will begin sending out to the board such that you all have visibility into the open positions, and it would seem as the most appropriate time or an accurate time to do that would be prior to the biweekly. So we'll work to come up with what that format is and the timing within which we'll send it.
Sounds good.
Thank you. I do want to acknowledge Michael Dietrich. He is our prep center manager. He does not have an update for us today, but obviously I want to acknowledge his presence and thank you for being here. Our interim director, Mr. Miller.
Good afternoon, board. A few tidbits. We all know that it's National Voter Registration Month, and we're doing like a lot of pop-ups in different places around the county. I think you can see it on the screen there. We have in all 8 different places. We've done September the 7th, and what it is voter registration drives. People come out and we get them to register to vote, and we go from one place to another. Right now, like I said, we've done one September the 7th. We have 2 today. They're out there now working on those, and then we have 5 more after that. So hopefully, once we get everything done, we'll get a good group of people. We have a lot of more registered voters, and we're just going to keep it going. We try to be the face of the county for getting people registered to vote. I know we have the voter registration day on the 19th of September, so we're going to have a lot of people come out for that. So as many as people as we can get, we want them to come out and register. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, a few other tidbits. I conducted a city manager tour from some of the counties, some of the cities. It was Acworth, Kennesaw, and Powder Springs. So they came out to the elections office, and what they did was just look around, and they had questions about how we upload votes, the election process on election night. They had a lot of questions about the machines that Michael took them through the warehouse, and how everything works, how we test machines, how we register people. So they were very impressed and very interested in the process.
And Mr. Miller, the invitation was extended to all of the city managers for the municipalities that we are conducting their elections in November.
I think it was 7, and the 3 showed up. So that was a little disappointing, but the 3 still had a lot of questions, and they were very impressed with what we do.
Good.
We're also going to be participating in Cobb 101, which is a 10-week course designed for citizens to provide an in-depth look of how the county works, the many functions of the county government. And we are currently, as far as elections, we're going to be part of it. So right now, we've had 1 meeting. We have other meetings coming. We're kind of in the planning stage. And as we get closer, I'll let you guys know.
Okay. And to be certain, Cobb 101 is open to citizens of Cobb County, residents of Cobb County that want to come, and it's not just elections. They'll learn about some of the other functions in the county, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And so every department will be presenting. One thing I wanted to mention was training. We have 2 staff members, Kara and Carly, who are in the supervisor training course. And what it is, it's a supervisor development program. It's going to be the training is a 6-week program that enhances the participants' management skills per county policy. And that's a graduation date. It's going to be at the Police Training Center, and the graduation date is September the 28th. So whoever can make it, it'd be great to support them.
Sure. And I know we don't have an exact time for that, but we're anticipating, 9 a.m.? Is that the time, or what time?
I think it's 9 a.m. Is it?
11.
Or 11? Okay.
Okay.
So
excellent.
if we can support them, that would be great. So a few registration items. I'm going to give an absentee update. As of today, we've had a total of 78 applications coming in, absentee applications. There were 22 UOCAVAs, which are the Uniform and Overseas Citizen Absentee Voter Act applications. And we had 11 that was, I'm sorry, we had how many? We had 22 that were out of precinct. So of the 78, 22 out of precinct. One is for further review, and the others, then we had 34, I'm sorry, we had 34, we had 56 that were out of, let's start over. Out of 78 total applications, we had 56 that were out of precinct.
I apologize, I need to understand, because you said out of precinct twice.
Yes.
So
What was it, the 78 applications that we had?
of 78,
Right.
22 were Uokava, am I
Yes.
correct?
Yes. 22 Eurocopper, and then we had further review or rejects with 34 of those. And most of those were out of precinct. Okay?
So I apologize. Math is not my forte.
We had 78 total applications. We had
78 total absentee applications that were received in the office as of today, correct? Or as of Friday?
No, as of today. this
As of
afternoon.
today, so
Yes.
78.
22 were out of precinct.
The balance,
I'm sorry, 22 of Eurocopper, there were 22 apps, right? And they were out of precinct. Then we'll have another Eurocopper that was under further review, that was 1. And then we have another that was further review rejects, 34. And then we had ready for accept and issue, 21. And that total comes out to be 78. Did that add up?
So there's only 21 out of the 78 that don't have an issue?
Yes.
okay.
Okay,
That's a report you likely need to send to us in writing.
I will.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, and what I'll do is, there's a stack list with the stats on it, and I'll send a report out. If you want to do it like weekly or.
Weekly would be amazing.
Okay,
And Gary,
yeah,
sorry, Jennifer, I would like that in Excel, please, so I can see the math.
and I'll probably do it at the end of every week.
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Okay.
Being the new kid, could you tell me and the audience, because I'm going to guess I'm not the only ignorant one, what the definition of out of precinct is?
When those people, what they do is when they send an application in, they can't really vote in that precinct. They belong to a different precinct.
So in other words, they wouldn't be living in the city limits
Yeah.
of the different elections currently going on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
A lot of them can vote in the county, the full election, but they can't vote in the
Right,
municipal
they can't
election.
in the municipal.
Right.
Okay.
So we
thank-
very well may be getting applications from citizens that are in Marietta. Obviously, Marietta is a municipality that does not hold a municipal or will not be holding a municipal
Right.
election this November. So
And
that's
most people, and a lot of times they just think that, an election is an election. A lot of
Right,
people
right.
say, I can vote, but
Yeah.
that's not the
Well,
case.
I think what that does is underscores the need for some more general awareness and
Mm-hmm.
education of our electorate such that they know what is on the ballot.
Right, right.
Perfect.
Any questions?
I do not have any additional questions. And if no one has anything further for Mr. Miller, thank you very much.
Okay.
As previously noted, we amended the order of the items on the agenda, so we are going to hold old business until after executive session due to the need to discuss a personnel matter or personnel-related matters. So we'll move on to new business. I noted that last month, we had some conversation, the beginnings of conversations around the virtual comment policy. And I know that Ms. Fisher, upon joining the board, has shared with me personally and perhaps with others the desire and the need for just a standard policy with respect to the governance of these meetings. So these meetings are governed by Robert's Rules of Order, but we do realize that our Board of Commissioners has a more fulsome, more fulsome policy that goes beyond the Robert's Rules of Order, but specifically as it relates to the virtual public comment, there's been discourse via email with regard to whether this board will continue holding virtual comment. I was not on the board at the time that virtual comment was put into place, but my understanding is it was related to COVID. Obviously, our county continued to operate and conduct the business that it needed to, but wanted to afford our citizens the opportunity to continue to be engaged and participate and be heard at these meetings. I will say I've reached out to Ross Cavett, who is our Director of Communications for the county, and as well as to individuals in our IT, on our IT staff in the county. And my understanding is this board is the only board that continues to have virtual public comment. So now I'm opening it up to each of you all for your comment on as to whether we will continue to have virtual public comment. Anybody want to be heard?
I do. All right, I am a strong supporter of continuing that policy for the reasons that many people talk about with regard to transparency and accessibility. I think a 3 p.m. weekly meeting or a monthly meeting is challenging for a lot of people to get to. And I think that the technology, it's one of the benefits that we learned that this technology was available and we've left it in place. Not that there were that many benefits necessarily from the whole COVID time frame, but I do think this is one of those things where people who can't make it to these meetings can still participate and engage with us as a board. So I'm firm, as long as our meetings are at 3 p.m. on a weekday, I'm 100% in favor of keeping that option available.
Thank you, Ms. Mossbacher. Is there any further comment from anybody else on the board?
I echo that. As someone who has a full-time job, I recognize how hard it is to get yourself somewhere in the middle of a workday. And if we're really going to make this meeting accessible to everyone, and we keep it during a workday, I feel like it's important to give people the option to join virtually. The other option is to move it to a non-workday time if we decide that we want to make it accessible to everyone to show up in person.
Do you all have any comments?
Just say my only comment is we seem to have problems getting the commenters on the line, and we can't see them, we only hear them. And I know there are tools available for two-way video, and if we're going to continue with the virtual comments, I think that we need to find tools that will make it easier for the commenter to connect in and for us to hear what they're saying. I know sometimes we've ended up having people on phones held up to microphones trying to get their comments across. Well, that's really inadequate in this day and age. And so I would just ask that we have a policy or a system available that people who do sign up for public comment, virtual public comment, are assured that they will be heard and that the process is not so difficult. So, thanks.
I concur with Steve's comments because I would like to be able to see who is making the comments. We have that advantage for the people who are able to come, and I think that would improve it and maybe move me a little more towards agreeing with Jennifer and Stacy, because as it is right now, I don't necessarily agree with people phoning in. We are a little different than the Board of Commissioners. We are different from the Planning Commission and every other one that allows no virtual comments. What I don't necessarily agree with is the number. We leave it open-ended on virtual. So setting a policy, I think is important, and I think we should put it in writing and post it so everybody knows the rules.
Okay. And just to be certain, when you say the number of individuals that can sign up or the number of minutes that someone can speak? Because we initially had a policy of 5 minutes, and that still stands, but we also reserve the right, depending upon the number of people that sign up. So I just want, for purposes of our minutes, to get that clarity, please.
I think we can have that discussion.
Okay.
In,
I didn't know which
in
were
writing
you,
the-
when you said, which one you were referring to when you said the number of minutes or number of individuals, or perhaps even both?
All the above, because I think when people come here, they bother to drive here, pay for parking or a chance going over 2 hours. I think they have an expectation of 5 minutes, and a lot of people kind of plan out the correct amount of time. It's an unknown when we have virtual, what that number of minutes is going to be. So I think just setting some ground rules would help.
Okay. I think it's an unknown regardless of whether it's virtual or not, because we don't know the number of people.
Not if you limit the number of people speaking. So
Okay.
that's where I was commenting on unlimited speakers.
Okay, that's fair. I just wanted to address Ms. Effort's comment with regard to the time and day. I will note that 2 years ago, when 3 of us joined the board, and at that time I also obviously worked full-time, we did inquire about the possibility of changing the time. Although this is the BOC room, there are a lot of departments and boards other than the BOC that use this room. So we are essentially bound by the availability. I know at one point there was a consideration for using our office, essentially the conference room at the elections office for these meetings, but to the point with respect to transparency, and really just ease and comfort of individuals being there. We've had a couple of special called meetings there, and it's not the most conducive for participation. So all has been duly noted. Thank you for ably taking down all of the options and the things that we need to discuss. I just wanted to raise it in this forum. Next up on the agenda, if there's nothing further on that, are board member comments. I will defer mine to the end. I don't know whether anyone has comments.
Can I ask one question of Gary? Is it possible for you to maybe have somebody investigate what our technology options are? I think we'd be more able to draft a policy regarding virtual public comment if we knew what technology was available.
And when you, I just want to clarify, when you say here or at the office?
I think here
Okay.
is what we're talking about.
Right. So I've spoken with, I've shared this with Ross Cavett.
Okay.
And I think it's a matter of going back to him to find out what the options are and what the availability is with regard to addressing the ability to see folks.
Cool.
So-
I just think that that's
Okay.
probably our first order of business regarding virtual, is what the consideration, what the technology, reliable technology platform would be.
So Tori, you want me to look into it, or something you've already done? You started on it with Ross?
Well, I mean, I inquired about a number of things with him. The first, because of the issue that we had last week, or last month.
Right.
But yes, if you'll just reach out
Okay.
to him and you'll copy me on it, we'll be fine.
I'll do that. Okay, Jennifer, thanks.
Anything further?
I would like to commend our new interim director as I believe somebody else already did, I think you're doing a great job so far. I think the board made a good choice for interim.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And based off the recent findings, I spoke to Tori about this, and I think there's probably a lot of people who share my sentiments. And that is, in 2020, which I was there almost every day during tabulation, and I did see a lot of different things that I would consider irregular, maybe not fraud, but irregular, that caused high levels of concern. I don't know that I've ever seen anything that I would say rises to the level of fraud, but I would like to highly encourage furthering the review that we had done by internal audit, expand that a little bit, because I think there's enough things that went wrong in 2022 that we should expand it and make sure that what we're doing is right, proper, following the law, transparent, and all the things that we all said we would do. And so I would just make that recommendation. I hope my other board members would agree with that.
Certainly. It actually was this board, and nothing against our interim director, or for that matter, our previous director, but it was this board that engaged the internal audit team to conduct that review. Obviously, that review was conducted after the conclusion of the 2022 election cycle on the next available election, which took place in March of this year. I would tend to think the next available opportunity, especially in light of the fact that following that review, there were a number of recommendations made. We are implementing some of those recommendations such that they will be tested, if you will, during the municipal election. So the next opportunity to really, I guess, make an assessment or a further review would most likely be the presidential preference primary election that takes place in March of next year. So duly noted, and we can reach out to our internal audit team. If no one else has any further comments, I want to address what was reported on last Friday. I was advised that members of the election staff contacted our interim director to let him know about ballots that were not processed. And given the reporting structure, Mr. Miller made Dr. Gibson, our public services agency director, aware. She made me aware, and that was the week prior to Labor Day. So I found out on Thursday prior to Labor Day. On Friday, we sat down with members of the team to have a conversation and begin our investigation around these ballots. What was the genesis of it? How did this happen? That investigation is ongoing. It continues. But again, wanting to get as much information as we could. Obviously, once we had a sense of what transpired, I advised board members, and I know that Dr. Gibson advised the Board of Commissioners. It's 18 ballots reviewing, a total of 18 ballots, 5 from the May 2022 election, 13 from the November election. But in each instance, those ballots did not make a difference in the result. That notwithstanding, thought it important for the sake of transparency, not only to let this board know, and in consultation with our council, I had a conversation with Blake Evans, our Director of Elections at the Secretary of State's office, to let him know He indicated that he appreciated our transparency, and notwithstanding the small number, every vote should be counted. And we are continuing to look into anything else that we need to do, further we need to do with regard to communicating with the 18 individuals that casted, in one instance, 13 provisional ballots, in the other 5 ballots. But I wanted to give the balance of the board the opportunity to ask any questions they may have, recognizing and noting that we're continuing to speak with members of the team to ascertain exactly how this took place. But I also will note, as Ms. Fisher made mention of, since each of those elections, we did undertake this review. Based upon what I've heard thus far, there are process improvements that we are implementing that would have caught this. So that leads me to believe that we're headed in the right direction, but I'm obviously available to entertain any questions, myself and Gary.
I do have a question. I believe last month I had requested anything they had in writing, and I don't believe that we have received that. I do believe it's very important to have any kind of changes we're making on this process, considering the importance in writing.
No, that makes perfect sense, and I'll work with Gary, if you'll work with our absentee supervisor.
Yes.
To get that. For example, I will note last month, one process change that was referenced is every person that submits an application receives a written confirmation in return that we received their ballot, and that's obviously connected, or a copy of that is maintained with a copy of the application. But I do understand the need to document for compliance purposes, as also to ensure that we're solving the right problems, we're identifying the problems and solving them. Any change in process should be documented. I agree with you that. If no one has anything further from a board member comments perspective, Mr. White, I do believe for litigation updates as well as the prospective personnel matter related to the election director search, that we do need to go into executive session. Okay. I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Bruning. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Fisher. It's been moved and properly seconded to move into executive session. All those in favor? The motion passes unanimously. So for those of you that have not been here, or for that matter, are not familiar with executive session, at this time we ask that everyone will need to vacate the room, and as soon as we conclude our conversation, you'll be invited back in. Dr. Gibson, from a personnel matter, we do need you to stay. So I will entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Bruning. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded to come out of executive session. All those in favor? The motion passes unanimously. Having had conversations about the two candidates that were proposed to us by Insight Global, we've determined that those two candidates are not anyone that any of us want to move forward with, and I believe we need to discuss next steps.
After being part of the process with Insight Global, I think it's kind of important that we maybe take a step back. I'm not sure that the company themselves, the search firm, fulfilled everything we were looking at. And I'm just wondering at this point, because time is of the essence, if it doesn't make sense to go back and allow Stacy and I to interview people that you all brought forward prior to us getting to the point that we hired a search firm.
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, Debbie. We can go talk to some of the previous candidates, and if we've decided that we're no longer going to work with Insight Global as a search firm, I think concurrently we should be looking at all the options. So
I think so, especially when there's money involved. I think that we would not be doing our due diligence if we didn't just take a look at that. And who knows where that'll lead us. So I'm good with it.
All right. I think the only thing there is that we'll need to circle back with Cobb County HR to make certain that engagement or any communication is consistent with HR policies and processes. But yes, it sounds reasonable.
In circling back with HR, that would not preclude us from going ahead and talking to a candidate or two that you all already spoke with, would it? Or do you know?
I do not know, and that's what I want to circle back with HR on.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Okay. So that concludes the update with regard to the elections director search. If there is nothing further on that, I know we wanted to get on the record that we are officially moving on from Insight Global, so we're making note of that. Our next meeting will be held on October the 9th here at 3 p.m. And if there is nothing further, our meeting is adjourned at 5:31 p.m.